for sure. So I'm really excited. Before the session takes place, I was doing a LinkedIn post and I said, "Oh my God, in 2012 I've been in New Zealand, and now I'm back virtually." So I'm really, really excited for the session. Yeah, and
Great.
we will talk about the Power Platform. We will talk about especially Power Apps, Power Automate, and I want to become everybody a superstar in the business application area. So, because I think I can talk all the day, a lot of weeks about this topic. So maybe we talk first about that. I want to thank the sponsors. I'm really happy that we have these events, even if they are hybrid. So we have the online tracks. Thank you very much, and even thank you, the organizers. I'm also an organizer of an event, and I know how much work is there behind, which you don't see as an attendee. So thank you very much. And if you don't know me, my name is Nicole Enders. I'm working as a managing consultant in Germany. So I said good morning a few minutes ago, but for me it's in the evening. So we have 10:15 p.m. for me. Yeah, but as I said, I've been to New Zealand now many, many years ago because I'm a Lord of the Rings fan. I wanted to see where the movies were made, and I checked out a lot of stuff. I did bungee jumping, skydiving. I did nearly everything of this crazy stuff in this country. And even today, I remember the time, and I say, okay, I did something which is relevant to my business, because if you're working with Microsoft products, it feels sometimes that you are standing at the edge and you are very close to jump from the edge, as I do this here on my picture. If you want to stay in contact afterwards, you find me on LinkedIn and you find me on X. And I also brought my favorite hashtags with me. You see them there. So it's all around modern workplace, not only a focus on Power Platform, but also, but I like to combine different products. So think about Teams, think about all the AI stuff, even like the newest developments we heard in the keynote this morning. And one of my babies is mixed reality. So I love Mesh and what's going on there. So we find this. Yeah, I've also written books and so on. So maybe that's a complete different story, because now I want to introduce you to Tanya. So Tanya is one of my oldest friends. We were together in school, and it was really funny that during the apprenticeship we were in the same company, and then we both stayed there. She is doing something completely different as I. So I have a software development background, and then I had my evolution in the Microsoft area. So low code, pro code, I checked out everything. Tanya is working in the back office. She has not a technical background so far, but she's really important for me, because I'm working as a consultant, and when I've done my job in a month, then at the end, somebody needs to write the invoices, somebody needs to track if our contracts are going on, or if something has to be changed. Yeah, and Tanya and I, we meet quite often, and then we have a chat about what's going on. And yeah, Tanya said to me, we need a business application. I said, okay, that's something I probably can understand if you give me some more information. I don't know. We need a business application is such a huge sentence. Yeah, and then Tanya told me, okay, I probably have some kind of a solution, but I then don't know. We have so many different topics in our company where we don't have a business application for. And I said, okay, can you give me an example? Yeah, and the first example was about the invoices itself and service reports and so on. Then I said, okay, I know that there are a lot of solutions out there, so that's nothing I would do as a individual solution. And I said, asked her, do you have another example for me? Yeah, and then she was talking about customer satisfaction management. So now we are very close to the end of the year. So I was a little bit shocked as I realized that we have now November and that it's only a few weeks until we have Christmas time and then the year ends. And at the end of the year, we ask our customers on an annual base what's going on, if we are performing good, what can we change, or what should stay in the same way. So customer satisfaction survey. Yeah, and she said, yeah, in the past, so it looks like a little bit that we are not so digital. So in the past, there was a letter which was sent to the customer, so we had paperwork to do, and the customer filled this form out and send it back, or even nowadays he would scan it and then send an email with this attachment. And then she said she was trying to do this on her own. She wanted to have a digital version. And she had some requirements regarding the process because she wants the process to be as fast as possible and as easy as possible for the project manager who triggers the customer satisfaction survey, for the people in the back office who are checking the results, who are checking if something has to be made, and even for the customer itself. Yeah, and then I said, okay, you have so many good ideas. So what about our current business process? So don't think about the technical base. Think about the business process itself. What's good there and what would you change? Because we don't need to build an IT solution for something which is not performing good in a non-digital version. So please think about the process first. And if you have an idea what the process should look like in a perfect world, then you have to think about another question. So should we optimize something? Should we change something? So even if the process is good, it's maybe not the best version of your business process. Yeah, and last but not least, because that's quite important from a technical perspective, do we want to support the whole business process with an IT solution? Sometimes you find some parts in a business process where it's better that some people talk to each other. And you don't need to build a solution that there's a chat area or that there is a option to call somebody and so on. Because if you think about tools like Microsoft Teams, so think about this meeting we have here, then you know that you have tools to call your colleague and to talk about a topic. And if you have a discussion and you have a result of your discussion, then maybe this result is the next input for your business process, and the discussion itself is not part of your solution later on. Yeah, and as Tanya and I were talking about this, he said, okay, it looks like these many years we see here on the slide. So everybody who is part of the business process should think about if there's something we are missing right here. So every time when you're talking about a business application, think about the people who are part of your business process and who are using your business application later on. They are the best people you can talk to if you want to find the best solution. Yeah, and in my case, Tanya has the idea with the customer satisfaction survey, and she also started something. So what did she talk to me? She said, yeah, she knows how to go with SharePoint. And yes, she doesn't have something else. So she has Teams. She knows about SharePoint. She learned that there's a OneDrive where she can store some documents for her own purpose. But it seems like a good idea that she creates a SharePoint list with the necessary fields. So think about, you need a field for the customer name. Maybe you have some questions you want to ask the customer. And yeah, maybe when you are adding more and more columns to your SharePoint list, they are not in the right order because you're not thinking about the fields as they need to be filled out later on. so you can change the order of the fields. Tanya said, yeah, that's quite nice. So if I think about which information do I need to go through the business process later on, that's nice. And I can add some simple validations. And simple validations means that she can set a field as a required or mandatory field and the others as optional. Yeah, and then Tanya said, okay, now she's missing something. So she knows that there's an option to build a form as on top of the SharePoint list. So maybe a customer can fill out the form and then it's here in the SharePoint list. But it's also some kind of a licensing question. So the customers won't have a M365 license to fill it out. So maybe she needs a flow, so a workflow between the form and her SharePoint list. But she doesn't know how to make this. And then she said to me, Nicole, I remember the time when everything was so much easier for me. So in SharePoint Online, everything seems a little bit harder. Can't we go back to the time where we had some InfoPass forms? I for sure don't know if you are aware of InfoPass forms. So it's a deprecated technology. It was in the times where everybody was using SharePoint in an on-premise way. So you are not in the cloud, but you had InfoPass as part of the Office product suite. So like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and so on. And there were many people, I see it in the chat, there were many people in there who loved InfoPass, but there were also a lot of people who hated InfoPass because it was really easy to build your electronic form, even when you had a SharePoint list and you said, okay, I would say I want to improve the input form of SharePoint, or you could build your InfoPass form standalone and then decide if you want to save the results, so the filled out forms, later in SharePoint or somewhere else. But it was a tool for power users. It was very easy to say, okay, I have so many fields in my SharePoint list and now I want to split them into different pages. So maybe you want to build some kind of a wizard, as we see this in some other applications. You had a lot of more options to do validations, so they were called rules in these days. And you could also decide to send your entered data via email to which email address this was the right way for you. And you had a lot of layout options as well. So InfoPass was quite nice and Tanya loved it. And then in the cloud, there was the day where it was said, okay, goodbye, InfoPass. And now she's thinking about what is the best way to proceed. She knows that there's something, but she has not a really idea what she needs to do as the next step. So she only has her SharePoint list at the moment. And yeah, that was a day where I wasn't in the office. So I was at the customer, I was doing a workshop. So she was talking to some of my colleagues who are working very close to me. And she talked to Daniel. And she said, okay, here's Daniel. He's looking quite busy today, so you see his dress. He has a customer meeting in the afternoon. He has not so much time for Tanya, but he said, okay, I understand that you need help. You can't wait until Nicole is back in the office. So tell me a little bit what you are doing. Yeah, and then Tanya was talking about her SharePoint list, and sometimes she said, okay, it's a Microsoft list. She doesn't really know about the differences between Microsoft lists and SharePoint lists. I can explain it's no difference because Microsoft lists are SharePoint lists. But in the past, as she was working with InfoPass, Microsoft lists was not existing, so she's a little bit confused. Yeah, and then Daniel understands, yes, you need a business application for your customer satisfaction management. Yeah, let me think about this? Yeah, I know that you started with the SharePoint list. Maybe I can leave it as it is, but then I will build a website. Maybe I will use .NET, and then did you hear about SPFX? It's working together with Joman and Node.js. I also need Gulp to build everything, and at the end, it's better to roll out your whole solution with PowerShell. So maybe we'll go with pipelines, but Tanya, don't be worried. It's quite easy. So I will build a solution for you, and when I'm finished, I will show it to you, and you can say, okay, that's nice, and then we are done, right? Maybe you have the same questions as Tanya now. So Tanya has no idea what Daniel is talking about, but she is a little bit afraid to ask him what he really means, because she only understood that there is a bunch of tools he wants to use. He wants to build a website, a application. He wants to roll out something. Oh, there must be an easier way, because Tanya really hopes that he understands her. He has a lot of technical ideas, but is he aware of the non-technical stuff about the business process at all? She's not so convinced. And now there's the question, are there any other options to proceed? So can we do it in a little bit different way? Yeah, and for sure we can. So as I said, I'm a Lord of the Rings fan, so there is nearly no presentation without some Lord of the Rings stuff. And I love it because this quote here is so cool for this kind of session. The world has changed. So yes, there was InfoPath, and then it was gone. And nowadays we have something else. We have something much more better. So the world has changed, and it's time for the makers, because now you can build your own app. Everybody can build his own app, a whole solution, a workflow. You can put AI components in it, or you can leave it. It's up to you. And if you think about Lord of the Rings, and I hope that some of you are aware of the story, here that's a scene very close to the end of the whole story. So you have these 3 movies of Lord of the Rings. This is the 3rd one, and very close to the end. And if you don't know them, these 4 people who are standing there, they are called hobbits. And hobbits are very small people, and they only want to live in peace and harmony. And if you think about the beginning of the story, nobody thinks that they can play an important role in the whole story. But here at the end, everybody's taking a knee, and these 4 small hobbits become the tallest people here in this the scene. They are the heroes. Everybody's looking at them, and you see they're a little bit surprised. They didn't expect this, but I want you to become the hero of your own story. I want you to build a business application, and that's what I'm showing you here in the live demo in a few minutes. So because it's time of the makers, and if you go on the M365 portal and you see how many apps and services are there, maybe you say, okay, it's a little bit too much. I don't know how to start. Tanya, for example, she started with her SharePoint list, or lists as you see it right here. And she said, okay, I want to have a form filled out by the customers. So she was using forms. I will show you what she did so far. And then I say to you, and as I said to Tanya, think about the Power Platform, because the Power Platform offers so easy ways to build your own business application. In some ways, you start with Power Automate because you only need a workflow. So think about that Tanya would have a much more easier scenario, and she only wants to have a workflow behind the SharePoint list, that every time when a new item is there in the SharePoint list, a new a task is created, so she can work on a task base to proceed with the customer feedback. Maybe in some cases you say, okay, Power Automate, that's not my first point. I need a mobile application. So I want to store my data in SharePoint maybe. And then I need a user interface because I want to use my list on my smartphone or maybe on a tablet. And I don't want to have it in the look and feel as the Microsoft apps are doing this out of the box. So maybe I want to have some custom validations or custom layout, or maybe I have so many fields on one page that I want to have some kind of a wizard. So I want to go from one step to the other. That's the way where you can go with Power Apps. Power BI, that's not part of the session. Power BI is for data analysis. So if I collect more and more data, then Power BI becomes relevant. And Copilot Studio, I think you hear a lot of, maybe on this event as well, but also on many events out there at the moment, because AI and Copilot Studio agents and so on, that's where everybody is talking about. That's also not part of the session. We will focus on Power Automate and Power Apps. And I want to show you, if you start with SharePoint as a data storage, what's the easiest way to get to Dataverse? Because Dataverse, that's the universal database for your company. So think about that. Every business process stores its data in Dataverse. You can do this. You don't need to do this. That's also a licensing topic. But if you do this, then you have a huge advantage, because every data is in here, and each of your business applications can have the single look on this data as it's needed. So I often explain it that when you have a recruiting process and you have new candidates who apply for a job, then maybe the application of this candidate is stored in the database, so in Dataverse. And later on, you add more and more data because you're doing interviews with the candidate and so on. And at the end, you decide, okay, this candidate, I want to hire him or her. And you have a contract. So you are adding more information. And if the candidate signs the contract, so everybody is fine with this, then he becomes an employee. And so this data is watched from another business application, maybe, who is working on employee management, onboarding, or whatever, but the data was already there, but only checked from another business application. So that's only a short explanation for Dataverse. You'll see how it looks like in the Maker portal of Power Apps in a few seconds. And AI Builder, I don't want to miss this as it's here on the slide. The AI Builder, that's an option if you have some pictures or you have documents and you want to extract data from these documents, for example, then you can go with the AI Builder because it offers an autonomous way to do this. Yeah, now an important step. I could have added this at the beginning with my 3 questions, but I said, okay, I'll wait until here, because we now say, okay, it's time for the makers. We can go with the Power Platform. Maybe we start now with Power Apps and want to build our first app. But please, 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 do not reinvent the wheel. Think about if there's something out there which can be used by you. And here we have Microsoft Dynamics 365. So Microsoft 365 has more focus on collaboration. So we have Teams and the Office products. We have Loop, Forms, and whatever inside there. And then we have Dynamics 365 with some modules in it. So think about that you have a module for sales process. You have a module for HR processes and so on. You see this here in the circle. Yeah, and my recommendation is check if there's something as a out of the box module which is ready to use immediately. You can also customize these modules for sure. And yeah, I know if you already are aware of Dynamics and you know that Dynamics 365 is to be licensed separately, so it's not in M365 with the same license. And yeah, if I talk to my customers, they always say, okay, it costs more, but think about the alternate way. If you build a business application with Power Apps and Power Automate and you need some special parts, then you need to go with additional licenses there also. Maybe not so expensive at the beginning as here a ready-to-use Dynamics module, but you need to think about all the time or all the money you spend if somebody external helps you building your Power App or your flows or whatever. So think about all the relevant stuff. And then if you say, okay, Dynamics 365 has nothing to offer for my business process, we say, let's build our own business application because you need to learn how to work with Power Apps and Co. Yeah, and that's where I say, okay, I now move a little bit here on my other screen because here's the live demo itself. And what do we see here? So we start in Power Apps. So maybe I say, okay, I zoom in a little bit so you see it hopefully much better. Yeah, Power Apps. I'm here in the solution area. That's the first point. If you go to Power Apps or Power Automate, you could build an app, a flow immediately. But if you want to build a solution for your business process, then maybe your solution will contain multiple flows, maybe more than one app. And then it's so nice that you can say, okay, I can create a solution. So you see here, I go back, see here the solution area. And then you say, okay, I want to create a new solution. You only need a display name. The internal name is selected automatically. And you can set a publisher. At the beginning, you have 2 default publishers here out of the box. I added a publisher for my company as well. So I said, okay, then everything which is built inside the company has this publisher. I know that's more if a third-party provider or somebody else builds applications, then you can check, okay, this is from this company or so. If you build your solution, then you can go back here. Then you have this empty solution, and you see here will be all the different artifacts, so apps, flows, maybe co-pilots, also tables. Yeah, and maybe we start with a table first. So Tanya said that she created SharePoint list, right? Yeah, what did she do? She told us she has a forms form. And I opened this here. So we have here customer satisfaction survey. It's from September in this year. And if you start here, then she has here a ranking. So how likely are you to recommend us to a friend or colleague? So we want to get this information. And then she has 2 free text fields. So in your own words, describe how you feel about us and what would you change or improve our product. So these 2 fields, I only can tell you we are not doing so much AI here in this session, but these 2 fields are very easy to use the AI builder and to do some kind of a sentiment analysis. And Tanya did something like this. So if I go here, I need to here. She said, okay, I have a flow, and this flow is triggered when a new response of this forms form is submitted. She gets the details of the form, and then you see here the brain. The brain is the icon for the AI builder. She said, okay, classify the text into categories. So if the customer says, okay, I'm very angry because your product isn't working, then it knows that there must be an issue. So issue is the category. And if I write something that information is missing, then maybe it's the category documentation and so on. So we are doing a classification right here. So if I click on this, you don't see so many information. You see the language, for example. So it's important for the AI model behind it that it recognizes the language. You could go with a flexible solution, but then you would need another step so it recognizes which language is spoken. And after getting all this information, we are adding a new list item to the SharePoint list. So the forms form is not adding a SharePoint list item directly. We are doing this here in a manual way. And then we are adding here the category, which is classified by the AI builder. And we also add the confidence score. So confidence score means how sure is the AI model or the AI component, we can say that this information, so the category is right. Yeah, and as you see this, so I go here. We have here our SharePoint list, and I will probably take the URL here of this site for later. You see here the SharePoint list. You see the confidence score. Tanya also added some kind of formatting right here. So she wanted to have some kind of a traffic light with red, orange, and green, what's going on. So here we have a lot of data. We have the score, and here the category, which is found here. So, but now, yeah, Daniel was a little bit right because he said, okay, I cannot go with your SharePoint list at all. Maybe we need something else. He was focusing on the website and so on. But I think, why should we go with the SharePoint list here at the moment? We can also go with Dataverse. And that's the first thing I want to show you. So if you go to the Power Apps Maker portal here again, so if we are here on home, maybe one step back. If we are here on home, yes, we could start and say, okay, let's build an app. We use a Copilot, and now we need to think about the prompt, how to create our app, how to create the right tables we really need. And yes, that's important, but it's also important to understand how it's made without Copilot, because only when you have this information, then you can write really good prompts. Yeah, and that's why I say, okay, let's go to tables, because first we need a new table, and I say, okay, here's a cool button, create new tables. I can use nearly everything, and here, funny, it's not focusing here in the middle. You have also to move it a little bit. You see that you can start with Copilot. So even for your table, you could go with a prompt, or you can import a SharePoint list, an Excel or CSV, or you start from scratch. Then you only have an empty table with a few system built fields. So in SharePoint, you have the title field and created by and so on. Here in Dataverse, you have something similar. But I say, oh no, I want to import a SharePoint list. As you see here, it's in preview at the moment. And if I'm going here, it should now load. So please, you will be nice to the demo gods. I always love this when I'm doing the demos, if you need to think about if everything is working right. So he knows that I'm connected to SharePoint, so I did this in advance in another solution. And here on the right side, we also see that I can add a SharePoint URL. And if I do this and connect, then he says, okay, you can now select a list. But you have also the recent sites and bit management. That was the one we were here. Bit management is already here. And now I can select one of my lists, and I choose the customer satisfaction survey list we saw on the other tab. Now I say import And as it's doing this, it's now checking if the fields in the SharePoint list are correct, if it understands everything. And here it says, I need some attention. I'm not sure what I should do. And say, okay, please view data. What's going on? And he has a problem with the confidence right here. It says, okay, that's an invalid value for the column. I say, okay, what's your problem? Maybe you have a problem because it's only adding here numbers. It has a problem with the percentage, probably, yeah. And you see it's rounding the whole stuff. For me, that's fine because I don't need the exact value right here. If you want to have it another way, then you would need to go with your column and you need to edit this. But here in my case, that's fine. And here now everything is easy and say save and exit. Yeah, don't ask me again. And now it's importing my SharePoint list. So it's an import, it's not a reference. So that means if somebody is changing anything in the SharePoint list, so adding a new item or updating one, deleting whatever, then we don't see this here in the table, which is created for us at this moment. Here in this case, it's only checking, okay, I need a new table. So a new table is created, the fields are added, the data type of the fields is relevant for the import, and all the items are added as records, but that's it. So if you change some records here in the table later on, it's not updated in the list either. So here's my table. And you see here, okay, it's custom, but at the moment it's not a part of my solution. So I added here as a table. I did this in this way to show you that you don't need to create everything new because maybe you already have some apps or flows or whatever. You can also say, okay, I add some existing. And here in my case, I go to table and I'm looking for my data table. So let's have a check. So customer satisfaction survey. I add this with all relevant objects. And now I have here my data table. You see here, it's headed right here, the stream. And now I don't show you every single option. I only explain what's going on. So we have a data table. And if you maybe have some experience or if you talk to people who are doing database development, then they are talking about tables and views and a lot of which is going on in the background, but they're not focusing so much on the UI, so how the user interacts with this table. So here in our case, we can go, here is this box schema. We can add or modify columns, but at this moment we don't really need this. Data experience is much more interesting because you can add or edit the forms. So if you add a new record, if you edit one, what about views if you want to have multiple views? So in SharePoint, for a SharePoint list, you can add multiple views. So filtering, sorting, grouping, whatever. That's also here in Dataverse. And the two other ones, that's more related to data analysis. So that's something you would probably do with Power BI, but there's a solution right here if you won't go with Power BI at the first draft. So forms and views, it's relevant. If I click on views, for example, you see that some views are there out of the box. These are not the SharePoint views. And maybe I'm now done. Maybe not completely because I want to do one thing. I go back here on my table and I'd say create an app. And now, well, maybe I call it customer satisfaction management. Create. And now it's creating an app for me. I don't need to do anything else. So we will see this when it's ready with the creation process, that he recognized that he has a table. The table has different views. He knows what the forms it's about. The only thing it doesn't know is about the navigation. So we have here the left navigation. He only knows that it's important that we can access this table, but that's it. So if you check this, so I say play, you see that the navigation would be a part for us, but here he imported all the data of my SharePoint list, even the test record we have here. And if you say, okay, I want to have a new record, then yeah, we have here Copilot. So Copilot says, okay, he helps us to fill out the form, and he has some suggestions right here. So he says, okay, maybe because I'm the person who is entering the new data, I should be the owner. So owner is something which is in every Dataverse table. So every record has an owner, which means somebody is responsible for this data. Somebody is working on this. More people can work on this, so it's not a permission topic. It's only that somebody is responsible here for. Yeah, and then I can add the title, I can add the promoter score, sentiment, and recommendations. These are the two multi-line text fields we saw in the forms form. And here, category and confidence, so we can work with this. If we don't want to have these fields that somebody can add this, so maybe you only want to have these two fields and this one, then we can go to the table back again. So if I go here on the table, and we can go on the form and remove this. So go on forms, I said. So main form. And you now see that here's the form as we saw this, and we could say, okay, I don't want to have maybe the category, and then I can remove this. So I use the little delete key here at this moment, or maybe I want to show the modified by field, and can I go with this? So you have a lot of options right here to build everything. So maybe you also want to do with a 2-column tab layout, whatever, it's up to you. But here in this case, you see, okay, I can add new items, and I also have the option to go with different views. So maybe I only want to have one special view in my app. That's also possible. So the table has every view and every form which is available for your table, but your app can have a subset of these views and forms. That's something you decide here on this place. Yeah, and when you're finished, then please don't forget to publish, and later on you can share your app. And that's it. So maybe you have one question now, which is now relevant. So if we think about, so we go here back again. If we go back here to the solution, the solution is also a good point that you see what needs to be thought about if you have one business process, but it's also important if you want to deploy this. So if you have a development area in Power Apps or Power Platform, it's called environments. If you have a development area and then you are building something and later on you want to put it on production, then it's a good way to go with the solution because you can deploy this from one environment to the other. Yeah, but environments, that's also something like solutions which you need to learn about, and learning is a good point. So let's go back to the slides, because I said we want to become a business application superstar in 5 steps, and I have a 5-step checklist for you. And the first point, I think that's a step you probably already have taken. So take responsibility and be a citizen developer. So think about what you can do, what business application you want to build. And if you say, okay, now that's the point where I start to learn, then you go to the second step because you want to learn the tools of the Power Platform. Think about if Power Automate or Power Apps is a good starting point for you. If it's not so related to the content of this session, maybe Power BI or Copilot Studio is also a good starting point. But think about the business applications from a classic way, then maybe Power Apps and Power Automate is more the starting point. And if you go to Microsoft Learn, you find a lot of learning paths for this, and they're walking you through, and you learn more and more. And if you have the base, then you see what's going on, and then you can decide what's the next step for you. Yeah, the third step is really, really important. Create a quick win solution. So you saw now a solution where we had one table and we had one app, and maybe there would be one flow or so later on, but that's enough. But think about a solution which can be built in a few steps for you, where you can make your experience, where you can get feedback from users later on. And if you do so, then you will have a good experience. If you have a big picture and you are building a huge business application, then you will build an app or a solution for more and more weeks and months, and it won't be finished at the end because you will be frustrated at some moment because it's too complex for you at the first step. So think about a quick win solution. And then two other points. So the fourth point is inspire your colleagues, inspire other people, build a team, because together we achieve so much more. And to be honest, you have a lot of more fun together. There will be frustrating moments. There will be moments where you say, okay, nothing is working at all. But if you have people which are there for you, which maybe face the same problems, hopefully not at the same time, but they will be there and you can talk to them, then it's so much easier. And maybe that's the last step I have here. Maybe there will be the day where you say, okay, now I'm so good in a topic that I want to share my knowledge at an event like this. But please start a little bit earlier. So share your knowledge in your company, share your knowledge every time when you're doing something, and talk about what you are doing. Even if you say, okay, that's something where you failed and it's not working, that's a good information for your colleagues as well. And I'm doing sessions where I say, okay, that was my lessons learned, or that was the lessons learned of one of my colleagues. And that's a story where you say, okay, maybe it helps you. So I hope that it helps what I talked about this today. So thank you very, very much. If you want to stay in contact, or if you want to ask questions later on, which are not asked here, then as I said, you find me on LinkedIn and you find me on X. So, and now I think I'm on time.
On
Thank
time.
you.
Thanks. Thanks, Nicole, for sharing as well. That's awesome. It's so much we can do on our platform.